your logo is just an image or a piece of text that you can splatter across everything, but people aren't really going to get to know you unless you put the time and the effort into putting that in places strategically that it's going to leave an impression with people.
Hey, Andy, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited because, well, first of all, we don't always have somebody from the Builder Funnel team on the podcast, but so a little bit change of pace, but we're going to dive into something that I think maybe doesn't always get enough attention, and that is brand. But as we dive into this, I guess give everyone a little context. Like, what's your background? Have you always loved design?
Yeah, I've always been drawn to design. I loved layouts and magazines. Then I got into following graphic design online, transformed now into this new age to an interest in UX, UI, and website designs. I didn't love it enough to study it back in the day. I went to school for journalism and entrepreneurship, but what really got me into design professionally was my life pre-Builder Funnel. I was working for a large civil construction and engineering firm. I was in a marketing department for a company who owned 6 different companies. So there was a lot of different brands to keep in line, but I learned a lot. I got super lucky. My boss quickly became my friend and mentor. She was super experienced, held a master's in design, and was really great about giving me a bunch of resources, let me borrow some textbooks, sent me to the right places on YouTube. And I definitely owe all of my skills to her. So that's what got me into it. And I've been just enjoying myself here at Builder Funnel, being able to bring my skills in as a designer to help in inbound marketing efforts and to help our clients create some good strategies.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, and 6 brands is a lot. I feel like managing one brand is a lot. So,
It was.
yeah, I'm sure you had your hands full, but you probably got to see really like what goes into branding because you had to pay attention to all 6, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was great practice for working with a lot of different clients, because the clients that we work with here at Builder Funnel, they each have their own specific tone and the way they like to market themselves. So it's just been really great to incorporate those skills here.
Yeah, and I always talk about marketing as kind of like part art, part science, and I love the science part because you can track everything, and I'm a numbers person, and I'm have zero creativity, so that probably has something to do with it. But more on the art side, like in thinking about branding, what are some of those like core components, like as somebody's thinking about their own brand and like what the heck is branding?
Definitely number one on the list is knowing your audience, and specifically the way they research and gathering information, knowing whether your target audience is online or offline, which social media platforms they're on. Would you have better luck putting money behind print and ad campaigns or social media ads? Because everyone takes in information differently, and knowing where to research your target audience is key in that process. And I would say following that is to create your logo, but also your brand, and be sure that that's cohesive and unchanging for the most part, creating brand identity so people can recognize you when they're out in the world and keep you as top of mind. Remaining consistent across your website, your social media platforms, your emails, and on and offline advertisement is also key. It ensures that people are able to spot you from the crowd, like how you can spot a bottle of Coca-Cola from a cooler full of products at the gas station. And I think what helps with that is another important topic of branding is having a well-designed website. And it can be such a battled opinion that I've really been excited to be able to share with our clients, and to get them excited in return when they see just how much a well-designed website can really affect lead conversion. everyone has a website these days. It's really nothing special to have a website, but what makes you stand out is how easy your site is to use, how relevant the information on your site is to your specific target audience, and how quickly they can find what they're looking for, and to fill out a form to get the process started. If it takes a user too long to navigate your site, or if it's hard to read or not aesthetically pleasing on the eyes, you can see really high exit rates, and they'll just head back to the Google results page and click on a site that will be easier for them to navigate. So essentially, having an underdeveloped website is practically handing money over to your competition.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. So you said a couple things there I want to dive into. One was you said like creating your logo and creating your brand. I feel like a lot of people associate the logo as the brand. So how do you differentiate between the two? Like what's the logo, what's the brand, I guess?
Yeah, the logo would just be, it's just that. And you can't rely on your logo to carry your brand, because your logo is just an image or a piece of text that you can splatter across everything, but people aren't really going to get to know you unless you put the time and the effort into putting that in places strategically that people, it's going to leave an impression with people. Putting it on a flyer or putting it on your website and developing your brand around, not even around your logo, just using your logo to let people know who you are so they can have brand recognition. But there's definitely more that goes into building a great brand than just having a logo.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, well, and you use the example of Coke, which I think we often do because they are a great example of creating a strong brand. A lot of their commercials are, I mean, the drink is there, but it's around like happiness and, and so is that kind of part of the brand, whereas the logo is literally just the symbol and how, like, what you tie to the emotions, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Building your brand is making people feel a certain type of way. So making your brand stick out. And when people go to your website, especially for our clients in the building and remodeling industry, you want people to see your work and to see your projects and the types of homes that you're remodeling or building and say, I can see my family living there. I can see myself raising children there and cooking in that kitchen, or living in that well-designed backyard and enjoying barbecues on the back patio. So you want to establish and make people feel a certain way, exactly as you said.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great. And it's funny, as you were talking about this, a lot of times we focus on like having really good photography and we want our clients to have really good photography. Um, but honestly, we need more good photography with people, probably because, you mentioned all these like memories that you're creating within the home, and those are what kind of like tie you to that emotion.
Mhm.
So shifting gears a little bit, I'm curious, like if somebody's listening to this, they're going, okay, I need to look at my website, make sure it's doing a good job. I need to obviously I have my logo as a component, but I have all these other things that I'm doing. How do you like analyze where you are? Like, how am I doing branding wise? Are there things you can do to figure out where you stand?
Well, besides working with Builder Funnel, there are three pretty easy and effective things that you as a business owner could do to analyze your brand. And the first thing is to just audit yourself. We audit our clients' brands all the time. We're just continuously reevaluating our strategy and how we can make it better. So to run an audit of your current branding efforts, just take stock of everything that you put your logo on, whether that's letterheads, PowerPoints, within your email signature, if you produce flyers or lawn signs, anywhere that may have your logo on it, and just take stockpile of it, either physically or digitally. And then once you've collected all of it, take a look at them together and search for inconsistencies. And this could be the way your logo looks. Sometimes you only use an image, and sometimes that image may have text below it. Sometimes you might cut out the image and only use the text. And it could be the verbiage used in your slogan, the colors, anything. Just write it down where there are inconsistencies and whether this designates a rebranding effort to kind of make things more clear and concise and recognizable for people. And a good second way to do this is to just utilize the resources already available to you, which is your internal resources. So if you have co-owners or stakeholders, ask your employees how they feel about your brand and inquire as to whether they feel as though your outreach is effective or how you can improve and whether you think your brand is up to date, because chances are you've got a great staff on board, and if they're working for you, they probably believe in your company, and you might find some great ideas if you just ask around. A third thing to do is to use your competitors. I mean, browse your local competitors on the internet, check out their website, their social media platforms, see if they're outperforming you when it comes to engagements or follows and likes. When you're driving around your town, if you notice their lawn signs, flyers, or billboards, then it could be time to step up your own efforts.
Yeah, those are good. I feel like the first one, like gathering all the stuff you have out there is a good step to take. And I see why you would need to do that ongoing, because I feel like over the years you just like, oh, we need some flyers for this trade show, or we need, some new business cards, and stuff like changes a little bit, or, you maybe lose track of why you created something. So I feel like that's a good one to make sure everything's consistent, and then just getting that direct feedback from the team and everything. I guess once you've kind of done all this, maybe you've looked and you found some inconsistencies, you've talked to some people and within the company, and they've given you some feedback. um, the art part of it, I've always struggled with, like, how do you figure out, like, do I need to improve this? Are there some things to look for? When you're looking at raw numbers, it's easy. You can go, oh, the numbers are low or the numbers are high. It's pretty clear. And I only say this because for those of you listening that maybe have like a numbers driven brain like I do, the art part can sometimes be confusing. But what I've learned over the years is brand is extremely, extremely powerful. And so like this stuff is important, even if you can't like tie it to an exact number. So I'm curious, like, how you would evaluate, what needs to be improved or how to make those improvements.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer can kind of be a gray area in the sense that unless you really want your brand to improve, you may not even know that it needs improving. So you have to take that first step to run something like a brand audit and to try and figure out where your pain points are and what you could do better. But the short answer would be, just like most things in life, there's usually always room for improvement. And even if there are people listening that are on the fence about coming on board with an agency like Builder Funnel, there's always things like coaching opportunities, and you can dissect your brand and get a professional on board to audit your website and view your search engine optimization rankings and see how you're competing in your local area, and be able to be provided a strategy for your team to execute that will help you along.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting, thinking about getting the feedback from other people. You mentioned the team. I think that is an underrated step, because you'll uncover these things like, oh, well, I thought this is how we were projecting the brand, but this is how my team is thinking. And you really want that team alignment and how you're projecting the brand together. But I would imagine even just like asking customers, but even lost deals, if you're able to like go back to them and offer them like a $50 gift card, if they'll give you some feedback on like their experience with your brand. Even if you did that with a handful of people, I'd imagine just like the raw notes from that person would be pretty valuable. I'm curious, as the like creator of a brand, when you create your business and you have all that, and then you get this input from team or customers, how much weight do you put to that? Because there's I feel like there's an element of like, this is the brand image I'm trying to create, and then there's the, am I giving this off? Am I projecting that? And I would imagine some of that feedback is probably really valuable, but some of it you want to discard as like, oh, okay, but that's not really in line with what I'm shooting for. Is there a way to sift through that?
Yeah, I would, with whatever results you take or you receive, at the end of the day, it's what you feel as though your business's pain points are. And, you can take every bit of constructive criticism with a grain of salt, just like in a lot of aspects in life. And what it comes down to is what's important to you, what's important to growing your business, and take the feedback and prioritize. Just create a list of things that you're on board with and you think are great ideas, and then maybe save the rest for a later date.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's good advice, and I like that you said this is a gray area because I feel like when you don't have those raw metrics to measure, and I think like at a large scale you can measure brand. Like Coke can probably measure brand better than the typical small business, but there's that gray area of you're kind of looking for that anecdotal feedback, which you mentioned. Like asking people, and then it's kind of that gut check of like, yeah, this feedback is pretty in line with what I'm going for. Or, oh, it's not really in line, so I probably need to make some changes. So I think that's really good advice. What would you say makes like a really memorable brand?
Definitely, it starts internally, and that's with, I can't stress the importance of knowing your audience, and most importantly, how to solve their problems. Especially, you can just directly relate it to the remodeling and building industry. The problem is people are unhappy with their current living space, and you present the solution of fixing it for them and creating their dream home and creating a space where they can grow. So with your brand, just knowing how to market to those people and presenting the solutions right in front of them, which is what's so great about being in the inbound marketing industry, is that it's not intrusive. We just create the solutions to your problem and just place them in places that you can find them. And I think that creating a memorable brand is just knowing how to solve those problems, being distinctive, making sure that you're keeping up with what your competitors are doing, remaining consistent so you remain top of mind. And I think another thing that's really important is to actively share your knowledge, and your website is a great place to do that, and your social media platforms are a great place to do that. You can create trust between yourself and your company and your target audience, and that will just further help anchor your brand as an industry leader to keep you top of mind.
Yeah, those are some really good points. And I think that's always one of the reasons I've been really drawn to what we do here at Builder Funnel, which is inbound marketing. What you said, which is, hey, we're trying to be helpful. We're solving pain points. So if the pain point is, a kitchen that's too small, then you're kind of showcasing how you solve that. You're educating about the process and all these details. And by doing that, you build things like you just mentioned with trust, and that's part of the brand. So I think that's really good advice. Obviously, if people want to learn more about Builder Funnel, they know where to go, builderfunnel.com. But is there a good place to connect with you online, or a place that you want to send people?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn for anyone that would like to find me and chat more. You can always contact me via Builder Funnel, and we do a great thing that we just wrapped up with Builder Funnel recently is a UX UI masterclass, and that is super helpful for those who may be thinking about improving their brand or their website but aren't really sure where to start. We walk you through why it's important, what you can do to improve your website, because I love how you mentioned that people who may be more analytics or numbers based may just feel overwhelmed when it comes to talking about the art aspect or the design and the branding aspect. But really, at the end of the day, it's not out there to say that your website is your biggest salesperson, because it never sleeps. It is working for you 24/7. And when people want to find you in this day and age, chances are they may go to your website before they go to pick up the phone. And having a great brand and presenting that to the public is just super important, and you can contribute it to, to leads and conversions and customers.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good point. I know I always have this like picture of that homeowner like sitting in bed on their iPad browsing, and it's like it's probably at 8 or 9 or 10 at night. They're doing research, they're busy, and you're not wanting to answer calls or do anything, and they don't want to talk to anyone in that spot. So I think, to your point, like that website is out there working for you. Your brand is always working for you if you have those things in place. And yeah, the master class for everyone listening, that's part of Builder Funnel Academy. If you want to check that out, we actually are doing, you can just go to builderfunnelacademy.com, start a 14-day trial, and watch the whole class at no cost if you want to check that out. Yeah, that's was really helpful for me, just being the more the numbers side. It's always good to be learning about the other side of it too. And the other thing that I would just leave people with is brand, I feel like, takes time. It's a longevity game, and so it's really interesting. I think I first learned that when you look at, I think Nike and Coke and a lot of these big companies have all done it, but if you go back and look at their original logo and then you kind of watch the evolution, it's like these micro changes over time, because they know, hey, everyone's associated with X logo. And then even if we want to get it all the way to Z, we need to change it just a little, and then we'll eventually get there. So don't forget about the longevity piece. And if you're thinking about a rebrand, really think about it before you just totally transform your color scheme and all that. Before we get to the last segment of the show, is there any just like final thoughts on branding that you want to leave people with?
Just don't write it off. I know coming into this, the year that we're in, 2021, it just seems like it's been such a quick transition to people having websites, to this focus being on websites and being on brands. And I had a lot of experience in, that construction industry where it's kind of that old school mentality. And there was kind of some pushback about coming into the real 21st century and putting money behind marketing and putting money behind branding. It was kind of a harder transition for that, other generation who doesn't feel it's as important. But I would just really challenge people listening to take a look at your own brand and realize that it really is important. And if you need some help or if you need some guidance, that there are people like our team here at Builder Funnel who are ready and willing to help.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, Andi, I know you know the drill. We're gonna head into the fast five. So I'll hit you with 5 rapid fire questions and just say whatever comes to mind. So first things first, favorite business book and why?
Man, I admittedly and embarrassingly do not read quote unquote business books. I read a lot of books written by creatives like photographers, designers, journalists. My all-time favorite, though, it's called It's What I Do by a Pulitzer Prize winning photojournalist, Lindsay Addario. She has an insane life story. She's been kidnapped by the Taliban and travels to war
Jeez.
zones documenting women's and humans' rights. And she takes beautiful images. She's featured in the New York Times often. And I love her work.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Who is the most inspirational person in your life?
That's a tough question. In my personal life, just many. My late grandparents just inspired me to always do what I love and never settle for anything less than adventure. My grandfather was skiing every day well into his 80s. And
That's awesome.
my parents and my little sister, I guess I'd be lost without them.
Yeah, awesome. All right. If you could have one superpower, what would that be?
Definitely teleportation. I have about 50 places on my top 3 places I want to travel, but nobody wants to deal with passports, airlines, and hotels. So I'd love to just be able to be there.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have a list of 50, but teleport is the right answer. That's the one I would pick too. All right. Describe yourself in 3 words.
I'd say creative, adventurous, and what I like to call productively scatterbrained.
Nice. Got the hyphen in there. We'll give you that one. All right. Final question. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, I guess I already gave it a while back. You hit me with that one, but it would just, again, I can't express the importance of just taking the time. And if it takes you time, that's okay. It can be a slow roll. As you mentioned before, building your brand is a slower process, but it's the consistency and just putting the work in to do it, and it'll pay off in the end.
Awesome. Good advice. And yeah, Andi, thanks so much for joining me today. This was good.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a blast.